Hello. What's going on? So this is obviously this is my first podcast. I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing, but I love the idea of a podcast and I just kind of wanted to start one, so we're fucking sending it. All right. Um anyways, I do have a cup of coffee here. I can't believe what the fuck I'm doing. Why am I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. But maybe a prompt would be a good idea. So, did you know that in Tennessee, where I live currently, it is illegal? Marijuana is illegal recreationally or medically. So, even if you have depression or some kind of pain or something that you want marijuana, or that you would like to have marijuana like to help you with or whatever, that's illegal. And it's kind of crazy to me that it's illegal federally. One big problem I have personally is I want to be a pilot. I just got out of the military and I have the GI Bill. And there's a lot of different reasons that I'm choosing not to become a pilot. But one of them is that you can't smoke weed. And I don't like that. I don't like any, because I feel like it's a trespass on my personal liberty with my body. Now, I do understand why. Like, obviously, like, if I'm getting into an airplane, I don't want the pilot, you know, being high or coming off of a high or having smoked in the past 48 hours and it slows them down cognitively or anything like that. I wouldn't want that. But I wouldn't want him hungover either. And he's allowed to drink. Now, of course, the difference is with alcohol, you can test that. You could test alcohol and see if that you can test that person and see if they have drank within the past hour, within the past 2 hours, whatever, right? Can't do that with weed. You can tell if they've smoked like in the past month, but you can't tell if they just smoked, which is part of the problem. So while I do understand it, it does suck that exists. You obviously don't want people that are in control of any kind of like heavy machinery or anything like that. That's obviously a big problem. But I've decided to get into coding, using my GI Bill on coding, because with coding, I'm not responsible for anyone's lives and I'm not responsible for, controlling heavy machinery. I'm responsible for programming shit. And I kind of always liked programming. Even when I was a kid, I learned some basic things in Liberty and I would program things in Liberty. But yeah, so you got that, and then you've also got the freedom, right? Because if you're a programmer, you can go anywhere you want. You can go anywhere you want and you could fucking program. Right? I could go to Germany and I could still work on some type of project or whatever, right? You get a lot of like independence that you wouldn't normally get. Now, being an airplane pilot, and if there's any pilots watching, I'm sure you'd agree that, you get a lot of travel opportunity as a pilot. You get to go see all kinds of different places and you get a lot of off time, which is very nice. But to me, I originally wanted to be a pilot because being a pilot sounded amazing. It sounded like a job that you could do that was fun, but, still paid good money. And so that's why I wanted to be a pilot. And I went from regular airplane pilot to helicopter pilot once I found out that ultimately, if you really want to make money in the airplane world, you need to go to the airlines, which sounded very boring to me because you get paid essentially to manage systems. You're there to make sure nothing goes wrong, and if it does go wrong, you're there to be the solution, which is cool. But I wanted to actually fly the craft, right? So started looking into it. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be a helicopter pilot. Did a lot of research in there, and I found out that in order to be a helicopter pilot, you're going to get out competed for all the good places and positions and everything by, military people that come out of the military. It's the same with the airplane side of the house, but there's so many airplane jobs in comparison to helicopter jobs that it doesn't really matter. So I couldn't get a decent paying helicopter job somewhere that I would want to live. I read from some experienced pilots on Reddit that, they were talking about how they actually have to move to their job, right? So like they'll find, say it's a job in Montana, out in the mountains or something. They got to move out there to get a good paying job, or somewhere remote. That's like where the available good paying jobs are. But I don't want that. I want to be able to kind of go where I please. And so coding seemed to be like a good option for me, at least starting off. So I have coffee. The coffee is actually sweetened by stevia. I read that sucralose, which is Splenda, while it is a 0-calorie sweetener, it is 600 times sweet as regular sugar, right? And while it doesn't cause cancer and a lot of other things that people, claim that it does affect your gut microbiome, whatever the fuck that means. I have no idea, but I figured, hey, gut microbiome, that sounds important. I'm just going to go with fucking stevia. So I did. I'm cringing so hard at myself doing this podcast. I fucking hate it. I hate myself. But the legalization of drugs in general, right? So it's my opinion that maybe this is a bit extreme, and I'm not entirely sure this is correct, but with your personal body, you should be able to do what you want with it. I know it sounds bad, right? I think that generally most would agree, except there comes a point where you are no longer making the decision because of addiction, right? So that doesn't really apply to weed, in my opinion. I don't think like you're going to, unless you have some type of mental disorder where you just can't stop smoking weed. I think that, I don't think it's fact that it's not a chemically addictive substance, right? Now, of course, there are it's not without its flaws, like many people would pretend that it doesn't have. But it is my body, and if I choose that I want to smoke weed, then I should get to smoke weed, right? That's kind of my fucking opinion on it. Now, cocaine, crack, heroin, I don't think you should do it, but it's your fucking body. Blah 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 blah. It's your fucking body, right? I think instead of spending so much money on the enforcement of drug control, which clearly works, right? Which obviously it doesn't. But instead of spending all that money on controlling drugs, why not spend money on, providing help for people that do mess around with addictive substances? Make it legal, because obviously the legality of use has not stopped many people from doing it. There's still a huge problem. That doesn't seem to be the solution. And if you're going to allow people to drink alcohol, if you're going to allow people to smoke cigarettes, then why can't they smoke weed? Right? Now, I know I'm beating a dead horse here. Everyone agrees with this. I shouldn't say everyone. Most people agree with this. And another thing that's kind of interesting to me is that Republicans disagree with weed use, right? And I don't really consider myself on either side of the spectrum. But if they disagree, but they're so big on like personal freedom, the right to carry. I'm all for that. The right to carry, freedom of speech. Why not freedom of smoking pot? Like, they're okay with you drinking alcohol. And I'm not saying put it in the Constitution, that you have the right to smoke pot, but like, What about something in the Constitution? You have the right to do with your body what you want, like why not? Um, I'm not saying that we should amend the Constitution. I'm just saying that why is this personal freedom different than all the other personal freedoms? Why can I, you know, drink so much alcohol that I get liver cancer, but I can't smoke pot, right? Or if the issue is that the smoke is still damaging to your body when you inhale it, then why not make it so that, okay, eat gummies, right? I mean, to me, it just seems pretty hypocritical. Now, I'm not going to lie, I don't know why exactly weed became illegal in the first place. I've heard a few different things. I haven't really looked into it myself, but as someone that does enjoy smoking the plant, I sure wish I could here in Tennessee. And I'm sure it's inevitable that eventually it will become legal, but it's just unfortunate that it's receiving as much pushback as it is. And that's my uh that's my problem. And a lot of people's problem here in Tennessee. So, but yeah, moving on to other things like stand-up comedy, right? I've only went up a couple of times. I'm definitely not like uh, some big comedian dude or whatever. But I'm starting to think that it's actually a pretty good creative outlet for people, for a lot of people, right? Especially if your job is public speaking. I think that going to a few open mic nights might actually be good for you. Not, to become a comedian, but just to practice getting in front of everybody that has an expectation of you, right? Like you're expected to make them laugh. And then you go up there and you have to deliver and you have to create your little piece of content, right? I, I I think it's actually a really good thing for a lot of people, but I'm still learning it myself, all the nuts and bolts and figuring things out. I've been going to a comedy club. I'm actually going to a normal bar uh, Monday and Tuesday, tomorrow and the next day. And I'm nervous as shit about it because it's different at a comedy club, especially when 80% of the people watching are comedians. But going to a bar where it's open mic night, but like people can go up there and play the guitar, that's a little different. That's a little more maybe not as welcoming or whatever as it would normally be. So um yeah, I think this is it. I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Goodbye.